Okay, I'm going to talk about the CRA Redbook Statistics first, and give a little background into some of the stuff that we're talking about, and maybe whether the objections is the proper route or there's alternatives. Okay, so really looking at the program itself, the CRA has something called a Redbook that they publishes every single year, and it goes through the number of claims by region and a series of categories, how many are refundable, non-refundable, and importantly what the results were. So they're very detailed tables. I've gone back as far as 2007 here, where it'll tell you from each region how many claims there were and what the ultimate success was at the end of the day. So you can see what was claimed, what was actually allowed, and then therefore what was denied by the difference. So going back to 2007, there was roughly 22,000 claimants for a total of $4 billion, just over $4 billion that was approved during the year. So moving on to 2010, we have an increasing trend. And then up to about 2014, you see an increase, and around 2016, 2015, we start to see a sharp downturn in the credits themselves. So effectively what happened was that in 2007 we had roughly $4 billion of credits with 22,000 claimants. We peaked around 2010 as far as number of claimants, 28,000 claimants for around $3.7 billion. And then the number of claimants tended to go down from 2010 to 2014. However, the size of claims went up. So we peaked at around $4.3 billion in 2014. And then you'll notice that every year since 2014 there's been very marked reductions in the amount of approvals each year. I don't have the 2019 results, which should be released very soon, but based on the experiences that we've seen in medical and other areas, we've seen basically a 1/3 reduction in the number of claimants and a significant reduction, probably an equivalent reduction in the total credits being allocated. What's distressing is at this point, we're told that there is no change in policy to support this, that everything is the same as normal. However, as we're seeing that the dispute resolution processes are helping to discourage claimants from claiming future times, and the number of claimants is being drastically reduced at a very alarming rate. Just to look at some of the latest information on some of the programs that we talked about. So they talk about pre-claim consultation or pre-claim process review. So there's only, as we said, the pre-claim review is being phased out. There were only 20 claimants in all of Canada out of the 20,000 claimants who did that, and roughly another 211 claimants, roughly 200 claimants who did the pre-claim consultation. So again, that may be an effective method to do it, but it does not seem to have had any real acceptance so far by claimants. So one of the things that we'll talk about eventually at this point is how do we improve that, and is that in fact a reasonable process to expect the taxpayers to go through. Okay. If we look at the total number of claims processed during 2018 by region, we can see we get 3 million, but we can also see the total amount of ITCs claimed and then the total amount of ITCs allowed. And by comparing those, we can see really what the differences are. I know this table is relatively large, but it leads to the totals that we talked about above. And then to take it up another step, if you want to get granular, you can actually go into each region, figure out how many claims went through, and then what the ITC claim versus allowed was. And what we can see is that in most cases where there's a review, which seems to about 16 to 17% of claims are reviewed each year, the average adjustment seems to be in the 50% range, overall ITC adjustment. So in some cases it's as low as 18, in other cases it's as high as 50, but overall across Canada, if you're going to get an on-site review, the average adjustment is roughly 35%. Okay. So again, what do these statistics mean? What do they say? there's a lot that can be read into them, but I think the thing that's most alarming right now, having gone through the medical claims, is that there's been a very sharp reduction in the amount of credits being granted, and it's not surprising, in my view, having dealt with the issues that we've talked about to date. Okay, so that's just a quick overview on the statistics themselves.